Okay, thank you for joining us, and thank you for accommodating the language change. We appreciate it. I'm honored to be joined by Enes Huli, the general partner at 500 Istanbul, a member of the San Francisco-based 500 Startups Network, and of course, Luba Guk, the founding partner of Blue Lake VC. And we're going to be talking about the investing landscape. We were delighted to be joined by you guys at our Tech EU Summit, so we're back for round 2 because it was such an insightful session. So I've given you a brief introduction, but I'd love for you to introduce yourselves a little bit and tell us about the companies in your portfolio that you are most excited by at the moment. So, Luba?
Thank you very much, Lucy. Hi, everyone. My name is Luba. I'm founding partner at Blue Lake VC. We're London-based, and our main focus is a bit unusual, at least for the UK ecosystem. We are focusing on exceptional international founders, mainly in the UK, or international founders who are targeting UK as their key market. We're investing in B2B software, mainly early stage, pre-seed, seed, and we are sector agnostics. And we have founders from different parts of the world. No one from Turkey just yet, and yet is a key word here, and one of the reasons why I'm here is to meet exciting startups, so please talk to me after the event. And in terms of startups I'm excited about in our portfolio, I mean, it would be kind of, you know, too easy to say that I'm excited about all of them, obviously, but, and yeah, we have founders, as I mentioned, from different parts of the world, coming from India, Poland, Ukraine, Pakistan, Australia, Peru, so different parts of the world. I would probably point the key topics we are looking at the moment, not to pick any particular companies, because I don't want to, you know, to pick specific ones, but now we're looking closely at fintech, sustainability, future of work, everything related to data and data infrastructure as well. I'm sure it's similar to you guys-ish, education as well, and healthcare. So that's something we pay particular attention to these days.
Hey, this is Enes from 500 Emerging Europe. We do pre-seed and seed investments across the Baltics, Eastern Europe, and Turkey, and our whole premise is to bridge companies to the US. So when you look into our portfolio, 90% of the $600 million revenue is generated from the US. Or from a fundraising perspective, the portfolio has raised about $3 billion to date. Out of that $3 billion, about 95, maybe 97% came from US investors. And from a trends perspective, I think it's really easy to connect the dots when looking backwards, and it's really tough to build those dots looking forward. What we do is we try to piggyback on great founders. One thing that didn't change ever since we launched the fund 8 years ago is we back great founders, and now looking back, we see ourselves being in some trends. For example, 2019 till 2016 till 2019, we did 8 different health tech investments and biotech. I have no idea why. I don't understand shit about biotech, but yes, we did. 2020, 2021, 2022, we did a lot in gaming. Then we started a lot in dev tools, and then for the past year and a half, it's been mostly AI/ML tooling. I wouldn't say we have a thesis on any of those. It's just that we have a thesis on great founders. I don't think you need this. I think yours work. It's just mine.
It does?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
I don't know why. It's always, yeah.
Technology.
Okay, that's a great jumping off point. So what is it that distinguishes a great founder? At the start, at the very beginning of the journey, a good founder or a good pitch, what is it? How do you evaluate them to think that this is something that has real potential to scale? Enes, start with you.
I think we try to distinct founders in 2 categories. In some of the founders, the pedigrees speak for themselves, where the founder's current ability is almost equal to its potential ability, and there's a high bar there. It has to be 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10. And they're so uniquely positioned in an industry or in a technology that they're one of the top few thousand people in the world, and then out of that top few thousand people, how many of them are going to become entrepreneurs? How many of them are going to be able to raise VC funding? It leaves only a handful. That's one type. The other type is where you invest into that current ability, which is not that great, but there's a huge upside potential where their potential ability is much greater than that if put in the right environment. I think your question gets tougher in those aspects because it has a lot to do with learning, having chip on your shoulder, making sure that you're at the dip of the pyramid in any room that you enter, so that you try to fight upwards. And as you fight upwards, you change the setting that you're in so that you have to continue to fight, say, for a decade to seize that opportunity. It becomes more of a psychological issue, a character issue on that left side of the equilibrium, more of a pedigree, background, experience, blah, 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 on the right side of the equilibrium.
Yeah, I completely agree. And we built our entire thesis around a specific type of founders, which in our case is immigrants or someone whom we can call international founders, someone who have lived in different places. And I think it's a somewhat self-selective group, people who left their home country for a better life to build and scale their company elsewhere. And I think resilience is a word which can be used to describe these founders, people who can build in extremely stressful environments. And I'm an immigrant myself, so I know what I'm talking about, where you don't have network, you don't have that social capital you can leverage to get your business to the next stage. So you can build, you have to build everything from scratch. And this is exactly the type of founders we want to back. So people who can, who can survive in pretty much any environment. And we all know that how stressful it is to build a company, especially at early stages. And it's even harder when you are new to the country where you are building your startup. So this is something we are looking at when we are considering a founder. And I agree with Enis. It's very much about founder at early stage, where there is not that much data you can assess, really. I mean, we're all looking at traction, numbers, and metrics, all of this amazing stuff. But at the end of the day, we spent a significant part of our due diligence and selection is just talking to founders, just sitting with them, spending a lot of time trying to understand their journey, their life experience. And I may just slightly disagree. I'm sure you have. It's more complex. But you mentioned like pedigree and previous background and previous experience. We look at these things, but I think it's more than that. So even if someone haven't studied in like top tier university or haven't worked in like Google, Facebook or whatever.
I think it's more dynamic than that, where you start from matters a lot. If you've worked at Google, starting from a different bar, it matters a lot. If you've already had a good pedigree and you worked for Google for 10 years, I think it sucks. It doesn't mean you're top of class, it means you're mediocre in class.
Yeah, but I guess, yes, the point also is that, even if someone haven't studied in the right university or haven't worked in top name, big name companies, they may have relevant life experience, which is something we also assess and take into account. So yeah, it's just a little bit more complex approach, I guess, but it's very founders-driven approach as well as for Enis.
Yeah, I just want to take that founder-driven approach a step further. I think we only look at the founders to find reasons to invest. Like our only investment thesis is on the founder and founder alone. Everything else, like traction, differentiation, competitive landscape, how the product looks, etc., are reasons not to invest. So we never build conviction on these other things. Yeah. We only build conviction on the founder and then put discounts on these other things if they're not that great.
I think you're hitting on why it's such an interesting conversation, which is that some of these things are so difficult to quantify. Yeah. But particularly at the early stage, and obviously that's a focus of yours. So you've covered a little bit of it, but I'd love if you could expand on the challenges that early stage founders present to investors and how you kind of circumvent them and work with them.
Yeah, so I touched on this briefly. It's generally about people. And I mean, I can describe you briefly our standard due diligence process, which is, probably 80% is conversation with founders, core team, their clients, if they have them, and their investors, previous and current ones, because that allows you to have this, 360 view about the team. So, because we believe that, yes, they may have idea, they have product, they may have traction, but things may change, and we've all seen this movie many times, right? Startups can pivot and they can adjust their product to market environment, but the team will stay, hopefully. So we spent a lot of time just talking to them and trying to understand, again, their journey, their view, their commitment. We also look at scalability. It has to be something with potentially big outcome. Again, nothing new here, right? No surprises. We're all looking for big winners. And other usual stuff. You look at your financial model, competitors, things like that. But team is really at the core, which in our case sometimes it's tricky when it comes to founders who, let's say, recently came to the UK, or they just started working with the UK. It just requires a lot of time to do the interviews and reference check, etc., etc. And also in our case, I'm just thinking about the previous deals we've done and kind of historical data. It would typically take, before we launch due diligence, it would typically take some time for us just to build relationships. So regular meetings, calls, we may see each other at various events. Startups would be sending their newsletters, updates, etc. That helps a lot with then due diligence and investment afterwards. So yeah, relationships I think is also important factor to take into account.
It's not something that you hear very often. I think that we're lucky on this panel to have this range of geographic expertise, and it's obviously you have such a comprehensive view of the Turkish ecosystem. So we're really well placed to hear your thoughts on the kind of the opportunities and the challenges of this moment for the Turkish tech system.
I think the Turkish ecosystem was way ahead of its time 15 years ago. If you look at 2010s in Turkey, compare that to Europe, compare that to the Middle East, Turkey would be one of the top 3 countries in Europe and probably by far the top country in the Middle East. But then it went through a transition where a lot of these local success stories had to give leeway to more global success stories, starting with gaming, peak games, obviously, and then other unicorns came in gaming, and I think there are probably more than 20 gaming studios that raised more than $25 million each, which shows that multiplier effect in an industry. And then came Insider as the first B2B SaaS unicorn from the country. So when I think courage is contagious, where if someone walks a path, a lot of people want to walk through the same path as well. So that happened with local success stories, which gave leeway to gaming, and then came B2B SaaS. So long story short, I think because of that transition, Turkey seemed to not be able to seize that opportunity between 2015 to 2020 because of that transition. But ever since then, I think the number of startups, companies that can raise seed funding, etc., has been just up and to the right. People might say that the investment amounts in 2021 and 2022 were much higher than what they were today, but that has more to do with macro, and I think it's more of a hiccup. So if you delete those 2 years and make it a straight line, it's almost like a straight linear going right up.
Okay, well, in that case, looking ahead then at the next 5 years, the next 10 years, what opportunities do you think are unique to Turkey? Which sectors do you think hold the most promise? And how can the rest of the ecosystem enable and nurture that success?
I think Turkey has the potential to produce probably 1 unicorn every 2 years in hyper-local businesses alone. So these are very Turkey-specific businesses. There's 1 in every 2 years that's going to come up. For 1 in every 2 years to be able to become a unicorn, there probably has to be 10 or so Series A's every year, so that out of that 20, 1 of them is going to become a unicorn. I think that portion of the equation would pretty much be stable and stagnant. I don't think it's going to grow. Because X times Y, market size, population, it's relatively stable. But then when you look at gaming, I think the success is going to continue. I don't think it's going to grow, but I think Turkey is going to continue to create a gaming unicorn every 2 years as well. But then this new breed of startups that are fully global revenues, global fundraising, value chain arbitrage, employing talent back at home, driving revenues either only from the US or from 50 different countries, like the case with Insider. I think that's the one that's been exponentially growing, or almost there's a Cambrian explosion, and we're going to start creating unicorns there, which in cumulative mean that Turkey is going to start creating more than a unicorn every single year. So hopefully there's going to be about 2 unicorns every single year coming out of Turkey.
And international collaboration is something that is a focus for both of you. Luba, I'd love to hear more about the struggles that your founders face, or the ways that you have to kind of train them to get used to the UK landscape in particular.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good question. And UK landscape, especially if you're not very familiar with it, I think it's pretty difficult one to navigate, and I learned it hard way. When I just came to the UK and I had to understand, okay, what's going on and who is who, and the culture is also different from where I came from, and I'm Ukrainian originally, so it's like you live in a different universe and you have to understand what's going on here, which is again even more difficult if you're a founder, right? Because you need to build in parallel. So I think for international founders, for Turkish founders, just to be very specific, I think the first number 1 question is to understand, okay, why UK in my case, right? So why do you want to target the UK market? Or maybe US is the better choice, right?
Most of the cases it is.
Most of the cases it is.
Enterprise software, US is larger than the rest of the world combined. I mean, screw London, you combine 200 countries and US is still larger in almost every single industry around tech, excluding China.
Yeah, but in some cases, you know, UK, and I agree with you, sometimes it's, just screw UK, go to US, but UK might be a good stepping stone. It's closer, it's probably not that expensive.
The Queen would be sad if the Queen heard that UK is a stepping stone. How sad.
I know.
What happened to the great empire? The sun never sets.
We have to be practical
stepping
here.
Stone.
So yeah, hopefully there are no representatives of UK government.
Make UK great again.
But let's be practical, and sometimes it makes sense. And I mean, we've seen it many times. Founders coming from, I know, Poland to UK first, and then to US. Founders from our portfolio, like one of our first investments, a company called Connected. They are founded by a Bulgarian founder, and they now started scaling to the US. So they reached a point in the UK where, okay, it's good, but we need to become bigger and more successful. So US for them is a natural next step. And we've seen many different combinations. I know, founder from Ukraine coming to the UK and then US. So it makes sense for some companies, but it has to be genuinely a part of the strategy. Because too many times I'm talking to international founders and they're like, yeah, we will come to UK if you invest in us. And you're like, no, it's not how it works. It has to be part of your strategy, part of your vision, and it has to be justified. Because it takes time, it takes resources, and otherwise, like, why would you need to navigate that very tricky UK ecosystem if it's not the right market for you? So I guess the fundamental question is why UK, and if there is a kind of sufficient answer which founder can give to themselves, why they want to enter the UK market, then it makes sense to attend events like this or initiatives. Like at Blue Lake, we are running a program called International Office Hours, where we are connecting founders from all over the globe with UK investors. So that's a good way for someone who is not in the UK yet to meet local investors, to get feedback, to understand more about the market, and then maybe make a decision if it makes sense for them to enter that market or not. So yes, the point is to do a bit of research, talk to people on the ground, and and then make a decision which country is next, UK, US, or maybe something else. So
Just quickly, I mean, we've just gotten Enis's take on trends, but I think that as someone you're like an anti-gatekeeper, you're like the gate opener to this whole new ecosystem, and kind of facilitating that exchange. So it'd be really great to get your take on what's to come next for the UK and the European ecosystem as well, and hopefully the kind of world that those founders are entering into and the things that they need to be aware of, the new trends. What's your take on what's coming?
New trends, you mean in terms of industries or?
Just the most promising sectors, I think.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, I can talk about us, and our bet is on founders. I think technologies will change. Like today is AI, yesterday it was Web3, tomorrow it may be something else. So our bet is on talent and on the fact that talent can come from anywhere. Right. So yeah, we'll stick to that position. And in terms of sectors, so one thing we haven't mentioned here, which is probably worth touching, in terms of what's next and what we may be focused a little bit more on is defense tech, for example, or dual use. So that's also something we started looking at, given what's going on in the world. So I believe that makes sense. But other than that, we'll keep focusing on all your usual clean techs, fintechs, gaming, maybe, who knows, and other amazing industries. And there are lots of problems that need to be solved. So,
yeah, absolutely. What a kind of a broad, optimistic note to end on.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. It's been really incredible.
Thanks for having us.